Hi everyone, this is Surina. You're watching Now It's So Vivid. Today I'm going to give you an updated tour on my main altar and also show you some of my smaller altars. It's been a minute since I've done a tour of my altar. I think it's been around a year now, almost exactly. And that was right around the time that I had first set up my altar in this room and sort of repurposed the spare bedroom of our house into the room where I do most of my witchcraft. I had to upsize because I was accumulating more stuff than I could tuck away into like a little corner in our bedroom. So utilizing this room was my best recourse, and it is just the change of location has definitely opened me to different styles of practice. It's given me a little bit more privacy, and all of this has really sort of opened doorways for me to try new things. So when I first began practicing, I had set up my altar in the sort of common structure of using the divine feminine on the left and the divine masculine on the right, and using that representation of the divine as the backdrop for my altar, for my sacred space. And over time, I just kind of realized that, you know, the focus on the sort of gender aspects of divinity, of deity, just really didn't fit with what I was doing. And I realized I was thinking in kind of more abstract terms, and it was helpful to sort of play with different themes and different ideas. So I've abandoned the masculine and feminine sides altogether. I still represent the divine feminine and the divine masculine in my sacred space, but it is not the blueprint of how I set up my altar. It is different now. So I'm going to turn the camera around and give you guys a look at what I'm doing now. Here we are. So if you've seen my last altar tour video, which was a year ago, I will put a link to that in the description if you're curious. This is the structure of my altar, and it's pretty much the same from last time. So it's the bookshelf where I keep all of my storage and stuff, and then that's the small altar table that my husband and I made together way back when we first got together, and I just put it right on top, and now I've got 3 separate spaces where I can do spell work and use this as sort of like my my desk, my magical desk, where I get things done. It's good to have table surfaces for that kind of thing. But, you know, you'll notice that a lot of my stuff has now migrated up onto the walls through the use of shelves, and that was very deliberate. I didn't want to have to put those things away and, you know, risk having them forgotten. So I decided to install shelves so that I had visual reminders of things that I wanted represented in my practice at this time without crowding the top of my altar. So that's really been a huge help, and I think it looks cool too, like to just have all of my stuff on display up there. It really gets me into a witchy mood. Aesthetics are very, very big when it comes to crafting sacred space and just the environment of my home too. Like, I really love to decorate my space and make it special, so that is the point. So if we move a little closer, the sort of main surface of my altar is always this table, because it was the original and I love it so much. So I do all of my spell work on top of here. My ritual work is always done on top of this surface. It's where I keep my ancestor candles, and where I now have representations of not the sacred feminine and sacred masculine, but the celestial and the Turanian, the sky and earth mothers. I found that I had synchronistic purchases where I had bought this Mary figurine and it had a really crappy paint job, so I painted it into this galaxy goddess, and she turned out so cool that I stuck her on top of my altar. And I was like, you know what, the star card in tarot has really inspired me a lot this year, because of a lot of my transformation work earlier on in the year with the name change and all of that. Having something that was representative of new beginnings and hope was very important to me, and I kept checking out my star cards and using it as inspiration in art and stuff. So I added a star goddess. And then shortly after I bought her, I found this old lady with grapes. And I had found like a sister to her in another shop altogether. So when I ran into this one, I was like, oh, okay, I can't ignore you now. This Turanian mother, this earth mother, was following me around everywhere. So instead of splitting the divine into a gender binary, I now have as above, so below. And that's really helped me a lot have a better understanding of the things that I find truly divine. You know, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but putting my altar in this room has really helped me get more practice into my practice. You know, the truest sense of the word practice is that I'm coming here more often, I'm doing things more often because I don't have to worry about privacy. When my altar was in our bedroom, you know, I had to be mindful of when I wanted to do ritual because that was the space that I shared with my partner. And now I have slightly more freedom. Like, he still comes in this room to use the computer and to use the art supplies, but for the most part, I am in this room nearly all the time because of my magical stuff, and having that sort of bleed into my art and have my art sort of bleed into my practice. It's really helped me like have like a calming meditative space where I can collect myself. I usually come here to be alone, and I come here to do spell work, and I come here to play with paint and markers and glue and have the time of my life. So I am so grateful that this is now a space that I can conduct all of those activities and create something really special. So right now I've still got my roses up on my altar. There's some roses. And there's some roses. Roses are my birth flower, and when it's sort of around the time of my birthday at the end of June, I really go bananas and dress my altar up to sort of celebrate myself. And then I've got my crabby Cancer bead that I keep up here. I'm going to use that in a project someday so that it doesn't just sit loose, but right now it is hanging out as a centerpiece. I've got my fidget spinners, because I am currently slightly obsessed with them. I realize that they're kind of silly, but you know, there's nothing wrong with bringing a little levity into your practice. I'm a believer, a strong believer in the power of laughter. And then my star goddess has stones in front of her to represent the celestial, and then my earth goddess has earthier, more dark and mysterious. I could consider her to be like a keeper of earth mystery. So, you know, the fairy quartz, aka spirit quartz, is up there, and the healerite that I bought, this very smooth, very sort of pucey green stone. I love this stone. It just fits so nicely in my hand. And I thought it's very much about a healing stone. That's why it's called healerite. And earth healing is something that I'm really into right now. I've got some serpentine. I always forget what these are called, but it is like a fossil. My bismuth. And then what's this called? I have a tag with the whole name on it. It is called Andradite Garnet and Epidote Crystal Cluster on Biotite. And it is from Pakistan. And that is a mouthful. So of course I never remember what it's called, but I did my research and sort of determined it was supposed to be there. It takes me a while to learn stones, to sort of learn their properties and understand what my personal properties of the stone are, because everybody has their own interpretations of what stones can do. And I think it's unique to each person because, you know, we're not all the same, so you have to develop your own relationship with your stuff. And that's what I do. So that piece of andradite garnet has made its way under the Earth Mother's gaze. And I've got a card up right now, which I made for the summer solstice last year. This Flower of Life sun card. And I'm just using it as a backdrop. And it's covering all of my candles because it gets so hot in this room sometimes it's just not even worth it to light them. So anyway, that's what's going on up here. So below, I've got, there's my container of beach sand. There is my crystal ball. I've got a tin in there, which I'm working on a project with that. I've got my shaker egg and my mortar and pestle. I've got some items for a poppet that I want to make sitting on top of my pentacle, and then another flower of life. That's my Morpheus flower of life that I've been meaning to color. And then I've got my cauldron way in the back. This is I don't know that I've ever actually showed this off on camera. This is an old cigarette container that was gifted to me by a friend some time ago, and I have developed a little travel altar with some of these items. It was something that right after I got my Pinterest, I was like, I should have a travel altar. That sounds like a great idea. And I do. I take it with me on certain trips. And I've got these lovely incense matches, which smell divine. And it all fits very neatly into this cigarette container. I'm not going to bother putting all that away with one hand, but I just wanted to show that off. It's got some collage work, and then pentacle on this side, and my symbol on the other side. And then finally, I've got this. This is, oops, there's a card in there. This is a fan that someone made for me. So I have a friend, her name is Ashley. She and I were in the 8th grade together, and then we both moved to separate sides of the country. She moved up into like the East Coast area, and I moved down into Arizona. So we pen palled for over 2 years, I think, and we used to send each other stuff. Flash forward to today. We're both artists. She lives, I think, somewhere in New York now. I want to say Long Island. And she's an artist there. And we decided to do an art exchange. I drew her one of my mandalas, and in exchange, she gave me a few art pieces and this fan. And this fan is super cool. It's got all this, like, witchy shit in the handle. So, of course, I love it. It's visually very, very intense, like, to look at. There's all sorts of, like, cool, neat, sparkly stuff in there. That looks like a piece of amethyst. We've got shells. There's a piece of unakite in here somewhere. There it is. This looks like raw sodalite, maybe. I'm not really sure. And then, oh gosh, what is that? Is that a piece of lapis? There's all sorts of great stuff. Like, the longer you look at it, the more you're like, oh, oh, oh. Beautiful moon charm on the bottom. It's just really, really beautiful. So this is one of my smudge fans. And because it's heavy, I don't keep it with my other smudge fan, which is up there on the shelf. So to keep it safe, I keep it down here under the surface of my altar where it can't fall and break. On this side of the altar, we have just some burning things, really. I've got my incense burner over there, which really needs a good clean out. I've got this pillar candle that I've got going. I've burned it to do. I always put it on whenever I do my videos because I have to use my voice. And that's just a little bit of spell work that I like to do for myself. And this is a new addition. I just bought this ashtray over the weekend because I thought it was cool. And it rang my witchy bell. And it's always good to have a depository for ashes, so happy day. I do occasionally smoke herbal cigarettes too with like marshmallow root and Malayan and stuff, so it would be nice to have an ashtray for that also. I keep some raw quartz and amethyst points up here because they sort of overflowed from the rest of my crystal collection. And I use them a lot too in like, if I need to do an impromptu spell or if I have to put some sort of quick grid up, I like having these big crystals. They're really easy to grab in the moment. And then this is just a container of potpourri. I was using this for a spell last month and I had to take it down. So I'm just enjoying its smell. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot to point out my copy of the Pamela Coleman Smith Centennial Edition of the Rider Tarot, which I like to keep on hand. I love this deck. Love it. It's so small and easy to shuffle, and I love the way it feels in my hand. I've got a grid going on over here, and I have a little nod to death because this is the earth side of my altar, and as a human being, I feel like our death is closer tied to the earth than to the stars. So I just keep my skull and my happy little crow, and I've got some sunflowers for summer and peacock feathers that I got at the Grounds for Sculpture when I went there for my birthday, because I love peacocks. Ooh, you can see me in there. What's up, everybody? That's my scrying mirror. And then over on this side, this is a collage piece that a witch friend made for me. I don't have her permission to put her name on this video, but I'll send her a message in a couple weeks when she comes back. She's away right now, so she doesn't have cell service. So when she returns, I'll send her a message and maybe she'll get me a link to her Instagram. She is a very talented collage artist. She made this for me. She does intuitive pieces, and this is the one she made for me. It's double-sided. And I love this interactive piece with the compass. Very cool. Having something made personally for you always feels really special. And then up here I've got my Ponderosa pine cone. That's my representation of the sacred masculine. It has been for several years now. This right here, whoops, this is a chicken foot made by the same person that made that fan, my friend Ashley. I don't know if I've said this already, but I'll put a link to her Instagram in the description as well. Her artwork is really, really cool. And she has a tendency to use very bright fluorescent colors, and her artwork is very visually grabbing. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I know I am. I love stuff that's like loud and in your face. So this is a chicken foot attached to a raccoon tail, and it's got a quartz cluster on it, which I think kind of looks like a thumb, the way that it's situated. It looks so cool, and I love the colors. Very neat. I've always wanted a chicken foot, and what better than to have one made for you? These are one set of my prayer beads. These are my meditation prayer beads with the fluorite on the end. I've got an hourglass. It's really more of an egg timer, but you know, it's an hourglass. And then I've got an abracadabra tile that I got from one of my witch crate boxes way back a few years ago. This is one of my athames. I purchased this from an Etsy seller in Germany or Austria, I can't remember, but she had a bunch of wooden things, and that was one of the things I purchased from her. Oh. The other thing that I purchased from her is over here, and it's this wooden goddess statue holding up the triple moon. She looks very beautiful. And then I've just got some weird bits and bobs. There's a little agate slab there. This is a mother of pearl shell that I've had ever since I was 12. I bought it at the Discovery Channel store, if you guys remember those. I don't know that they exist anymore, but that was one of my oldest treasures to sit up here. Behind that I've got a picture of myself from when I was 4 months old. That was my first Halloween, and my mother dressed me up as a witch. Little did she know. I was a witch for like the first 8 years of my life for every Halloween. And next to that picture is my Virgin de Guadalupe, which I got in Mexico. Some charms down there. There's my fairy candle set. Some other natural treasures, my blazes. This is a piece of iron slag. This is my abalone with my sage and my palo santo. This is a stick from my latest hike with my husband. I liked it because it had lichen growing on it, lichen and moss, and I just let it dry that way. And then, let's see, this is a piece of my besom broom that fell off, so I put it up here. And then I've got this rosary, which I found at my Graham's house. It used to belong to my cousin, and he didn't want it anymore, so I adopted it. And I put it on the shelf. And then up top, we've just got some storage for seashells in that sparkly box. That there is a charm bag from one of my witch crate boxes, some feathers, my inkwell, an oil diffuser, and then my bell. Down there I keep, there's the box with all of my crystals in it. This is a chalkboard that I keep my morning prayers on. I like to keep those to myself. But this is a tree that I made. It's really just a couple of branches glued together, and then I wrapped them all in embroidery thread. Not sure what I was going for when I started this project. It was kind of intuitive in nature, so I just decided to let it be, and whatever happens, happens. Right now it's just very attractive. And then I've got my grounding stone on that shelf, and that there is the box that's holding our hand fasting cords. I'll get around to decorating that at some point. And then just some crap. Crap in the corner. Nothing to worry yourselves about. Over here I've got my scales. They're sort of hiding behind our peace lily. I've got, this is an ongoing spell ever since the equinox, and I'll get to change it up at the next equinox. And then if we go to this side of the room, this shelf over here I've dedicated to be a altar to natural things. So treasures that I find on walks and hikes and trips to the beach and such. We went to the lake a couple weeks ago, so pretty much all of the treasures that I've found from those adventures I like to keep up here. Like, this thing is entirely full of beach gravel. I've got like a dried dogwood flower. There are my crab claws. Just stuff that I find out in nature. The purpose of this it was to be a sun altar, so that things could charge in the sun, and you can't really do that with your crystals because the colors can change or fade. So having natural elements in the room that can be constantly charged by the sun feels very special to me. Whew, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I am really sweaty. It's so hot in this room, and I have to keep the doors closed most of the time because if I don't, the cats will wreak havoc. So I am a little shiny, but I'll make it through. All right. So over here, you guys might be recognizing a change already. I moved Medusa down on top of this chest of drawers. I keep nothing but like, this is like Ren Fair accessories, and then I have altar decorations for the different seasons that I sort of store in here. So, you know, the surface of it wasn't really for anything. So I put Medusa down here, and I think she's much happier down here. I think she looks much more colorful than she did up on the shelf, and yeah, I'm happy with this arrangement. I was a little worried that her head wouldn't fit on the surface with the rest of the stuff, but she looks very comfortable there, if you don't mind me saying so. She looks very happy, and everything looks very attractive up there, and that's always a plus. My additions to this altar include one of my other fidget spinners and some extra stones, but also this art piece, which is the third shout out to my friend Ashley. This art piece is one of my favorites that she sent me. It's hard to pick a favorite because they're all beautiful. However, because of what this piece represents, the title is called Solitude and Otherness. It was perfect for Medusa, and instantly when I put it behind her, I was like, oh my god, everything makes sense. So it just ties everything together with the green. It looks very attractive. Love it. And it glows in the dark. So when I turn the light off at the end of the night, this side of the room just glows, and it's beautiful. And then at last we come back on top of the bookshelf. This is where Medusa used to hang out, and I've decided that I really wanted to devote this more eye-level surface to a shrine to Morpheus. I don't know how big it will be. I don't know if this will become part of it at some point. I'm not sure yet. I really want to repaint this thing because I'm not a huge fan of the way it's painted now. I really appreciate the extra storage, but no matter what, it really does need some touching up because it's seen better days. However, I knew I just wanted to have some visual representation of Morpheus in this room because right now his only home is in our bedroom, and while that's very appropriate and I like having him there, I did want to have some depiction of Morpheus in my sacred space, my main sacred space. So I painted this portrait of him. I couldn't be prouder of it, and I know that Morpheus likes it. And in front of it is sitting the beautiful pillar that Joey Morris made for me in my Morpheus spell set. And I also made some poppies out of tissue paper to stick up here. And this is just the beginning of what will become a more active shrine. It's really just been put up only in the past several days, so I'll get to decorating. Things are always moving in this room. Nothing is ever static. I'm constantly rearranging and changing things up. So that's what's going on. That's what's going on, guys, in the altars. And then, of course, my prosperity altar is back there behind the computer. Very little has changed back there. I think I just put up some sunflowers, and the cornucopia has filled quite a bit. But that's for me. Oh, and then, of course, shout out number 4! Shout out number 4 to Ashley. This is the final art piece that she made for me. It's a representative of me. We got some Italian sausage links. This is the Keystone of Pennsylvania, a cactus from my time out in Arizona. I think these are supposed to be representations of the moon, and then I love these sort of elemental triangles that are sort of lining the sides there. This is another piece that glows in the dark, and it glows really bright too. So this whole room has glow-in-the-dark elements. I have glow-in-the-dark stars across my ceiling. So there's shit that glows in the dark all over this piece. This video could not be complete without giving a shout out, a big shout out to Meg, who, she used to have a YouTube channel called Sage Sorrel. I think she doesn't make videos anymore, but she does still appear from time to time on the YouTube Pagans Facebook page, and she was asking around to rehome this beautiful statue of Baphomet, and I snagged it from her. I've always wanted a Baphomet statue. I've always been very impressed with this very imposing, goat-headed, androgynous being. and Baphomet falls into line very fittingly with my as above, so below philosophy in my sacred space these days. So what a time to be alive, Baphomet. Thanks for joining us. I promise that I will find a more appropriate space for Baphomet and, instead of on top of these goofy boxes where I keep art supplies. But for now, I'm just trying to keep the statue away from the cats. And this was the safest space for it. But isn't Baphomet beautiful? I love it. Thanks, Meg. Thanks a million. Before I go, I wanted to show you guys my first pass at Morpheus. This one turned out really good too, and I'm really proud of his body. I think that was my best body to date with painting figures. It's not something that I do very often. I used to do portraiture a lot when I was a kid with pencils and draw people's portraits and then color them in with colored pencils and stuff. That was a hobby of mine, and I haven't picked it up in a really long time. So I've been sort of greasing my gears by doing little portraits here and there on doodles at work, and I decided to finally put them to canvas. And this was my very first painting on canvas in almost 20 years. I used to have an obsession with Bob Ross, and I made my mom buy me a bunch of canvases so I could practice painting at home, but not since then had I painted on canvas, and then I decided to go big or go home and paint this figure that I was turning into Morpheus. And he looks pretty good. I'm not a fan of his hair, so that might get some touching up here shortly. But also, I kind of wanted him to be like further in from the edge. It kind of just looks like the light is coming out of his butt, and I didn't want that, so I find it a bit distracting. But, you know, it is still an attractive painting. I think I'll hang this one in the bedroom. And I still got the effect I was going for, which was that he was the sort of sun catcher that the light was, you know, shining through to create the prisms behind him. I just turned it into a halo in the other picture, whereas this is more of a backdrop. So, yeah, I really like this painting. I'll finish it someday. Thanks everybody for joining me on my updated altar tour. I think I'm done now. I'm going to go downstairs and cool off with a big refreshing glass of water. And I will see you guys next time. I hope everybody had a nice full moon. And until we talk again, sweet dreams.